Welcome back to the Odisha Design Week. Our keynote speaker for the ODW is Professor Pradyumna Vyas. Professor Pradyumna Vyas is the former executive director of the National Institute of Design, India's premier design institute. He currently serves as senior advisor for design promotion and innovation at the Confederation of Indian Industry. He is also a member of the board of directors of the World Design Organization. Most importantly, Pradyumna is an old friend of mine and a mentor to the Odisha Design Council. We apologize for the slight delay in the beginning of the talk. You know how it works: AirMeet, technology, internet, virtual conference. Sometimes there are glitches that we need to handle. Pradyumna, you have 45 minutes for your talk, followed by Q&A. Over to you.
First of all, let me just compliment my friend Paresh Chaudhary. In fact, I tell you that he started this thing for one year ago or so, and single-handedly with his young team, he navigated in between that all pandemic thing has come, and finally he has pulled almost like a global design week in Orissa. So my compliments, Paresh, that it's a great show which you have put together, getting speakers from all over the world. I also remember his days with me at NID when he started NID Vijayawada campus, and it was not an easy task to set up a new campus. And his leadership has really brought in a lot of values in design in NID Vijayawada. So thank you, Paresh. I think you are a very passionate design teacher and now design promoter and taking forward your state in the area of design related activities. So let us talk a little bit about Orissa. My understanding is that which is culturally very, very vibrant and economically layered, and I think strategically very global, because it's really connecting both the sides in a very, very strategic manner, where a lot of possibilities are there to take forward the design industry, the creative culture industry, and other industries as well. So one aspect which I see of Orissa is that the tacit knowledge which exists, the cultural strength which Orissa has, and we know the textile is famous all over the world, which is coming out from Orissa. We worked when I was in NID. We worked on a major retail outlet of Orissa in Delhi and realized that how many things are really coming out from Orissa, and they need certainly one boost through designers to bring it at the global platform. And India, anyway, is rich in this tacit knowledge. And I think when this tacit knowledge comes with the explicit knowledge, it really creates the new knowledge and for make it more contextual. So this is the one scenario of Orissa. What are the challenges? What kind of aspects which really have come up in recent time, and how design can really change the course of the future? But before that, I would just like to tell that what this pandemic has done to us, that human beings, that they this only species on the planet which overpowered all animals, everything, and say that we are totally under control of everything. In fact, they're ruling the planet, whatever the scientific developments which have happened. And then this microorganism comes, and suddenly the human race was threatened and put behind the completely house arrest kind of situation. And I think this is lot to learn from there, where you were showing your supremacy, and this microorganism which you cannot see from your naked eye has threatened your species completely. And I think somewhere, what are the reason why it has happened, how we as the creative community has to take it forward, has to be looked into. It has really pandemic has really uh, make us break with the past and imagine the new future. And I think this imagination of new future has to be somewhere based on our traditional knowledge, which we have ignored for quite some time. We can say that we are living in VUCA world. We is volatile, U is uncertain, C is complex, and A is ambiguous. It is actually, the situation is that the future is fiction. You cannot predict. You try and go in one direction and suddenly something comes in. And that volatility has to be really uh, seen in the context and see that how we can address that issues. So as we know that the technology is moving so fast, and maybe technology somewhere is responsible for what mess we are in. But let us talk a little bit about these industrial revolutions which have happened in last 200-300 years ago. The first one was in 1760, when the steam power was invented, and then some kind of mass production textile mills and other things has started. And the second one was 1870, second industrial revolution, where the electric power has come. And this is the turning point, actually, that second industrial revolution, same time the design education in Bauhaus in 1919 started, and which was based on the mass production and mass consumption. And the economy also based on that, more you consume, economy grows, more you. So this use and throw, use and throw, use and throw has become part of that. All industry are looking into how much product we can push it into the market. And that became the linear economy. They take, make, dispose, use and dispose. And I there somewhere it's gone totally wrong direction, and this pandemic has really made us realize that the system which is going on is not really going to sustain. And the way we are consuming the material, as if there are four planet earths, in fact it is only one. So we have to really change the whole attitude of going forward in the future. The third industrial revolution was a IT revolution, where India started becoming power, which was 1970. And now we are into the fourth industrial revolution, which is the digital industrial revolution, where the fusion of technologies, digital, physical, biologies, their boundaries are merging. And this certainly gives a greater opportunity for the design fraternity to use the technology in the context for the better tomorrow. And I would say that presently the way material consumption which is happening, I think we have to really go back and see the biosphere, how it is managing its whole circularity. And when you look into biomimicry or bio diversity, you see there is zero waste. There is no waste in the biosphere. Somebody's waste is somebody's raw material. So it's a cradle to cradle situation. And I think design has to move into this cradle to cradle situation. In India Design Summit, we were just talking about circular economy and circularity, about the things, and which place would be better to make a circularity lab other than the Orissa, where there is so much of uh, uh, traditional knowledge still exists. Things are going still the way they were going earlier. And I think this global lab, this Orissa Design Council can set up, where not only learning from the outside world, but to teaching the world about what practices which we are doing in Orissa, and moving from the consumer centric economy, which works on use and throw, to getting more working from technology perspective. Because today our entire system, which is operating on what a technology can give. Industry, they are looking into profit. They want to use the technology and create new product, whether they are ethical, whether they are damaging to the society, nobody is caring about. But another product, another thing is coming out continuously of that. So it's a very technology centric innovations which are happening, which we have to really change is to more human centric and more earth centric. Do we really need it? Is it required for sustainable living, or is it one off? And then mobile phone is a very good example, where that every 1 year you find another model is coming, and which is bringing, because of technology, some new future features, and you are compelled to buy another mobile, though it is working very well for purpose of communication. And that product obsolescence which is happening through technological development, I think is creating a major issues. And here we have to really get not only this industry 4.0, but the society 5.0, which Japan has coined the word, where we say that technology is only enabler. Technology is cannot be the driving force. The people and environment first has to look into what is the requirement of human beings, what is the requirement of planet, and then you take the technology. And that's why they say that the definition of design is humanizing technology, or the contextual use of technology is design, and that is what one has to really talk about. Let us also move around that how focus is shifting and how design fraternity is trying to really come that okay, the technological things have happened, then management has also taken that how to sell product and how to move forward, and somewhere people are talking about no, let us get into design thinking. And design thinking is not only meant for designers. Design thinking is for everyone who are making decisions for the betterment of living, betterment of society, communities, and other thing. And what is the design thinking one is really talking about? It's a system thinking. It's a holistic way of looking at things. It is a multidisciplinary approach which we are talking about. And I think this design lab which we are talking about in Orissa, maybe they should create a platform where the people from diverse areas trying to look into the social issues, maybe they are coming. The veterinary doctor can come and talk about that what issues they are seeing. Some agriculture person can talk about, and same time the academicians and the bureaucrats can also talk about what are the issues which are there. The design is also part of it, and management and social science. And so all, I think, create a platform where all these stakeholders are coming and talking for the betterment of living standards and looking into what are the complications. And now you suppose you say that okay, I need to solve the problem of cyclone. I think I need to involve the person who is there and who's facing the cyclone day in and day out. Outsider, how are you going to really address the issues about whatever data you have? I think this inclusive approach for design, which involve the fishermen also, which involve the local authorities, which involve the people who have suffered such kind of thing, and then bring and talk to them and come out, rather than bringing this perspective. In colonialism, the British colony, when that time which has happened, it was always that we give and you take, we order and you take it forward. I think that mindset has to be changed in the future of design, which I will also be talking in future of design education. But I think somewhere the stakeholders have to come together and resolve the problems. It's a good that what Paresh has shown, that bus stop is there and some other aspects, and he did point out various things that what all is required. If suppose the person on wheelchair would have been brought on that, he would have given or she would have given the feedback that what problems they are facing. So the process of innovation in design thinking, which is very collaborative and which works with people who are coming and their voice has to be heard. So the technology, as I mentioned, not to be driving force, but technology only into look into the contextual thing. Now let us this fourth industrial revolution, which I talked about, which is the digital, which talks about artificial intelligence, which talk about robotics, which talk about 3D printing, big data, all these things. Now, obviously, one is talking about how to increase the production, how to use robotics to work out the things. But I think we have to put our mind and see that how we can use this fourth industrial revolution in healthcare, how we can use it in education. And this time, you see that this pandemic time, Zoom was there earlier. It's not that Zoom was not there earlier or other the platforms were not there earlier for communicating. But when the situation came in, we really used this fourth industrial revolution for taking forward our lives, and we all have adopted this online learning, and it has changed now. It is not going to be the same what it was there earlier. But I think those kind of things which are forced on us during this pandemic, but can we really look into that how this power of technology which we got into taking it for our advantage, looking into context, can also look into healthcare, can also look into what you call this education, uh, mobility, and so many things. Means even communication and other aspects which we can look. Lot of actually this fourth industrial revolution has also empowered the very small, meaning the small businesses, entrepreneurship. It is almost like the democratizing and empowering people with this technology. But again, what is the context in which Orissa, there are the businesses which are happening in the craft area, the businesses which are happening in the traditional industry area. Can this design center or your Orissa Design Council help in building up those small businesses, have empowered globally, directly without middlemen coming, with the use of Internet of Things and getting connected? I always feel that why do we really need all these big IT companies in Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Delhi? Why can't it be in the remotest part of Northeast? Because they don't consume, meaning they don't have to travel. They are connected with satellite. They are communicating all over the world. And we are crowding Bangalore, or we are crowding Hyderabad, or we are crowding. Why don't we do it in all the difficult terrains of hilly region, which is almost like 30% of area of this country, and we don't do there because it is difficult to reach there. But the satellite and connectivity is no problem in a hilly region. And I think that kind of disruptive thinking, unless we bring in using the technology particularly in particular manner, and take it forward. And I must say that the situation is, one of our NID graduate, you may be knowing about it, that he initiated a wonderful this business model in Sikkim. And what he did, because when this complete lockdown was there, people were working online, and Sikkim was totally under the tourism. The entire, means like major part of the income which was coming from the tourism. What he did, he got in touch with the hotels which were not operating at all, looked into the better internet possibilities, and then got in touch with people in Hyderabad, Delhi, and Bangalore, that if you want to work from a fresh air, from the organic food, and good internet connectivity, and come with your family, stay in those hotels, and connect with the world. How does it matter whether you are sitting in Bangalore, or in Sikkim, or in Hyderabad? And I think such kind of disruptive thinking, we completely change the scene, and people are enjoying being there in breathing the fresh air from Delhi, who are going there and also working, and connect, remain connected with the family. So I think those aspects uh, is need to be looked into. And as it is always said, that innovation is now recognized the single most important ingredient of any economical or modern economic growth. So this innovative thinking has to be looked into. Now, whatever is happening is, basically there are two systems which are operating actually. One is the planetary planet system, which is very very circular, and another one is that human development index, where which is the complete development is based on consumption. Now they are completely contradicting, because and they are having a conflict. If you try and develop more resources for people to consume and grow, the planetary system is getting hurt. And this is the challenge which we have to have, that how can we balance these two systems in equilibrium? Meaning that one side you are talking about that the economic growth and sustainability of the environment, and that model, people are working on it, that model continuously, renewable energy, and how we can use this material which can go back as a raw material. And there are not only product one is really looking into, people are also looking into the service oriented things. 3D printer is trying to empower people. You make your own product. If you are making your own vegetables in your house, or the food in your house, you just make your own product. You get this all electronic things which are available, and then you print your phone, and you print your other gadgets, and then the entire thing can be disassembled, and then again it can be reused, and that is the way one is working. Material development, lot of things are happening in Adidas. I saw one the footwear which they designed. Entire footwear, you crush it and it becomes the entire raw material for the next generation of food. I think this cradle to cradle thing which we are talking about is also depending on a lot of material development, and then only if we are mimicking the nature, that we are totally circular in design and development, which we just follow our tradition, because our traditional knowledge, cottage industry, regenerative materials which are there in Orissa. I see the product which are made of wood, which are made of grass, which are made of natural dyes, printing, cotton, all are regenerative material. But only thing is, one has to really create balance. What we consume, we replace. The replacement is going on for billions of years. The same model, maybe we have to really adopt to balance between economy and ecology. And this balancing is more and more important. So coming back to the creative cultural industry, this word I heard, I think Neelam Chimber was talking about in this, that the craft industry is basically second or maybe third largest employer in the country after agriculture. I think the craft industry comes, but very unfortunately, the industry, meaning if UP you talk about, in last 10 years or 15 years, 60, 70 crafts have disseminated. That's the same reason must be happening in Orissa. And the people who are expert, generation after generation after generation, they are doing it. They are migrating into the cities and taking up another the livelihood. Maybe it is a rickshaw driver or maybe working in the industry, and we are finishing that knowledge which is going on for many generations. And I think this is the topmost need of the hour of the states like Orissa, where the designers come together, try and understand, co-work with them, see that there is a market, see that the regenerative material is also continuously in supply, see that the people who are working in sandalwood, who have a micro level aspects, who are jobless because the sandalwood has been banned now, cutting and all, or that way for that matter, the ivory workers who were working in microns and now they have totally jobless because ivory is banned, where we can position their skills which are of such a great order actually. And that certainly rest, those responsibility rest on I would say the design fraternity, to look the context of what skills they have. And this Orissa Design Council, the Orissa Design Center, or whatever you call, see that this cultural values and ethos which were there, which are very, very circular, which went on, how we can take it forward. So the world is talking about sustainable development goals. There are 17 goals which they say that it has to be achieved on that particular by I think 2035. Earlier it was 30, then they've extended it. And here I would like to touch upon that NID was set up in 1961 by Charles and Ray Eames. They visited NID and they wrote a report called India Report. And I think it's worth reading. All the educational institute, it is worth reading. It's a very small report. Learning by doing and learning from the field. They said that time in 1958 when India Report was published. And we celebrated 40 years of Ahmedabad Declaration, which was, I think, in 70 or so, which was UNIDO, EXID, International Council of Societies of Industrial Designers, and NID. They had Ahmedabad Declaration in 1970 or 71. Most likely it was 70. And that talked things that time, what is there in this sustainable development goals. And I said heads off to these people who had such kind of understanding that time about sustainability. And they put it that how what the world is talking about, which was discussed in NID 42 years ago, or the curriculum which were developed that time, was almost like multidisciplinary and new education policies talking about. They were practicing IDC Mumbai and NID Ahmedabad, they were practicing, meaning that the person coming from the craft field and coming and teaching the student, that is the culture which NID has grown, learning from the field. And those values are so strong in today's time, which we practice. And while there was a very strong possibility of taking the global position of leadership in sustainable thinking by India, somehow now we are listening from outside, but nevertheless, we still have a lot of knowledge in the area of sustainability through our tradition and culture, which has to come in the mind of designers and technocrats and marketing people to find out the new models to take it forward. So this creative culture hub, let us make a major initiative of this. So I think I don't know how to thank Paresh about it. But he needs support. He needs support from all of us. The initiative very passionately, which he has done, and I personally feel that if all of us come together with his drive, which he has single-handedly with his student friends and also his friends all over the world, which have come, let us see that if suppose this creative cultural industry sell for the promotion of these small businesses, making a lab where the people from all over the world, students from all over the world come and learn from this, where the real inclusive amalgamation is happening between the art, craft, design, technology, social science, and in true sense, we move towards Society 5.0, which is really looking into the human and coexistence on this planet, where we create an environment which is inclusive for everyone. So, thank you once again for inviting me to speak. I know that very eminent speakers are there in line, and they may be knowing much more than what I have shared. A lot of things must have been repetitive or so, but maybe there are young people who are attending this. I thought it will be good to talk to them. And only thing I say, that we are in a creative field. We create something new, and that's why we need to have some modification in our behavior rather than becoming spectator from outside. We need to dirty our hand and create something new. Let be optimistic, let be sincere, and put our best effort to see that Orissa we make the one of the best design capital in this country. Thank you very much, Suresh, and thank you all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradyumna. That was quite a extensive overview of where we stand as a society and where we stand in terms of crafts and the role of design in all of this. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions while we
Yes.
wait for audience questions. On one hand, it's easy to talk of the circular economy when it comes to crafts or textiles or wood, but it's a little more complicated when it comes to talking of a mobile phone. It's not that easy to build a circular economy. So, how should designers approach technically complex problems like a car or a phone? How do you even understand where to begin and where to end vis-a-vis the circular economy?
Yeah. It's a good question, Suresh. You know that the business models are changing. Now, the electronic area, where we are saying that we have mobile phone or we have a computer or we have a laptop and all, the or the car for that matter. Now, there is a shift which is happening from product to services. Now, people started leasing computers in the institutions, and you see that the new version comes, they take back the old version, and then entire thing they open it up and see that where it is going and how they are reusing it. So it becomes the manufacturer's responsibility that they are providing this latest technology and as a service provider rather than the owner of the product. And this is what is going to happen eventually. You'll find that more and more service industries will come up leasing the product and taking it back.
Pradyumna, you spoke of biomimicry quite a bit in your conversation and how nature doesn't create waste. If human beings are part of nature, what is it that we're doing different, in your opinion, from the rest of nature?
No, the only thing is that you see, it's always people say that ignorance is better than half-baked knowledge, and this is what has happened that we have not understood the ecosystem which works in biosphere, and we, with our limited knowledge, we started inventing materials, using resources, getting into the energy consumption, because end of the day it is the material and energy which we are talking about. And then obviously the business models of consumption use through this, which is really come out. So obviously, if you are not able to breathe the fresh air with the existing system, you will have to go back to the biomimicry, that how this system has worked from 5 to 8 billion years, which survived, and your just entire thing is spoiled in last 300 years. So I think we will have to go back to the drawing board and see and mimic the entire material aspect from cradle to grave, to treadle to treadle. And this is the change which is happening. As I mentioned, our Adidas shoes, that entire thing become the raw materials, the services which are provided, where the complete thing is going back and recycling the upcycling the thing, or developing the material we degrade like the nature. All those things will be coming in future, if we have to really sustain the life on the earth.
Pradipta, final question for you. I know that you do a lot of high level policy work with CII. Is Indian industry taking design seriously enough, as seriously as it ought to be?
You see that industry. Let me also talk about this thing. If educational institutes are attending this conference, you see many institutes say that our students are industry ready. They say industry ready. Our education is very much focused on what are the requirement of industry. Industry's requirement is making the business and making the money, and the designer goes and they say that you do this because we want to do this, and the person will do. I think the question you have asked, in today's time the industry is there to make the business. Designers have to learn the value centric design, and tomorrow they should have power to say that this is right for you and this is what I will do. Those values we have to inculcate in education, that the student is saying not industry centric, but the student is more planet centric and telling that this is what is right and this is what we should do that. But those kind of ethics is not so simple to bring in an industry in an ideal situation. Some industry are very very powerful in their ethical sustainable ethical practices, but some obviously uh, looking into total profit and not looking into environment. So the policy comes into picture very strongly, and this policy advocacy or design activism, I think this design activism has to start somewhere, where we are talking about that how to create the resilient society, how to create sustainable society, how to really look into, and it will come, the pressure will come. You cannot breathe air in Delhi. It is going to come somewhere, this activism, and where industry will be compelled not to really just uh, uh, carbon footprint will certainly come into the picture, and those aspects will come. Maybe policy framework requires to be very stringent about the pollution control and other things, and designers value systems and industries ethical practices, all in a very systemic manner would be able to make changes. Some generations will go, but this is certainly is the need of the hour.
We have a question from Soman Sumanathal, who says, "Can you let us know of any biomimicry-based design projects which are happening in Odisha or India, where we could where we could contribute or get involved?" Pradeep, any biomimicry projects come to mind where students and young designers can get
No,
involved?
you see that I will just tell you one or two examples. NID, Suresh, also you must have gone nature and form course in your second year program. We are understanding the nature very minutely, how it is functioning, and you are creating some forms based on how nature's understanding. But I just want to give you one industrial aspect of it, where the quality of material, meaning there are ifs and buts are there. The Tupperware develop the material property of non-sticking, very very fine layer, with the leaf of lotus, and you must have seen the lotus, which has which is basically a kind of any water droplet comes, or even from the feathers of the birds which are there in the water, ducks and all. And those properties they try in microscopic manner in a very thin material layer which they have created, which is a reusable, which is not letting stick anything on it. So these are some of the instances which we are taking. Mercedes-Benz has come out with the chassis of one of the van, where the entire chassis was created from the skeleton of the fish, because the fish, the dynamic aspect into the water, and the structure which was carrying out in under the water, about that the cage which was created in fish, as the Mercedes has taken. So these are the structural thing which we are talking about. But I am now trying to say that nature, how you reusability, going back as a food, that is what is the need actually. Developing plastic based on that, it gets consumed. If it goes into the fish stomach, it gets consumed over there. Those are the things which are required actually to look into.
All right, Professor Pradyumna Vyas, thank you very much for speaking at the Odisha Design Week. We wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Paresh, to speak to the audience. Thank you very much.
Right. Our next